Although there are plenty of lawyer jokes out there, this isn't one of them. I was talking to somebody the other day about law schools and the Constitution, and it dawned on me as to why lawyers would have a more difficult time learning and studying and understanding the Constitution than the rest of Americans. So we'll ponder that next on the Constitution Study.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from a long through line of everyday Americans.
Hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here with the Constitution Study, where we read and study the Constitution and we teach the rising generation to be free. I am glad you could join me. As always, head over to that website, constitutionstudy.com. It's actually very important that you do that, not simply sign up for the newsletter, but there's good news. There's finally a launch date for the book. This is the first podcast where I can announce it. I am going to launch the book May the 4th, 2020. That's right. It'll be Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. We can save the Republic. All you have to do is get ready for the book. Now, until then, the reason you want to go to the website is I am offering a pre-release promotion. So if you go over to the website, sign up for the newsletter, I will send you, if you haven't already got it, I will send you some instructions of where you can find out about the book and you can find out about the special offer. But that's where you got to go head over to the website to find out more. It's not all you can do there. You can take the Constitution Study quiz. You can ask questions. You can find other material to share with friends and family. This is all about reading and studying and learning and understanding the Constitution. And all you can do there that you can do to share that is greatly appreciated. You can also find me on Facebook and YouTube. I'm thinking of actually starting an Instagram account since I've got the book coming out. Anywhere you can find me and you can share this information, I appreciate it. And those who do help, either by buying my material or just donating to the cause, I really appreciate it. It helps me put on these videos, to put out this material, and to do it without having to charge people any more than absolutely necessary. So I really enjoy going out and visiting sites, and I'd really like to be able to do more without having to, ask for expenses to be covered. With that said, let's talk about lawyers and the Constitution. Let's face it, there are plenty of lawyer jokes out there. I know quite a few, you probably know some more, but this isn't really designed as a lawyer joke. See, every lawyer I have asked has told me that they didn't study the Constitution in law school. They studied constitutional law. In fact, I'd go so far as to say they were lied to in law school. You see, constitutional law is defined as case law about the Constitution. Now, case law is basically the opinion of judges. It's how previous cases have been decided. But you know what? That's not law. You see, case law never went through the legislative process. It never went through the lawmaking process. The courts are not allowed to make law. They are forbidden from making law because all legislative power, all lawmaking power is vested in Congress. So here you have a lawyer who's been practicing who knows how many years. And since the day they entered law school, in fact, the day they entered pre-law, they have been lied to. They have had it drilled into their heads, case law, constitutional law. This is what the Constitution means. That is what the Constitution means. Would never ever actually having gone and studied the document itself. Now, for those lawyers out there, or those who want to be lawyers, let me ask you 3 questions. If you decided today that you wanted to study art, you wanted to study the great masterpieces of art throughout the world, what would you do? Would you go and view the Mona Lisa or the David, or would you merely read people's opinions about it? Let me ask you another question. If you had a case that involved a controversy involving a contract, would you read the contract? Or would you simply listen to your colleague's opinion about the contract? Now, in both of those cases, I'm pretty sure if we were honest with ourselves, we would go and see the original artwork. We want to get up close and personal as we could to it. We'd want to see the brushstrokes and the color and the perspective. We'd want to experience it. And if we were involved in a case involving a contract, well, we don't want to read the original contract. We don't want to go and see what it actually says. Yet my question number 3 is, okay, lawyers, then why don't you study the contract, the compact that is the U.S. Constitution? See, if we're going to study art, we want to see the art in person. And if we're involved in a case with a contract, we're going to read the contract. But why is it when the case involves the Constitution, we ignore the contract and we focus on people's opinions? Now, if you spent years being told that case law matters, what happens if you actually go and read the Constitution and find out that it's different from what the opinion in case law said? What happens when you read a clause like the right to be secure in our persons, papers, properties, and effects shall not be infringed, and then you look at an opinion of a judge who says, well, we can infringe it for this reason? What happens when you see things like the right to peaceably assemble shall not be abridged, and then you see an opinion from a judge that says, well, we can abridge these rights if the government has a sufficient interest? Can you see how that would make it harder to study? I remember many, many years ago when I was a teenager, my father got his private pilot's license. Being a teenager, I thought it was a great idea, and I followed in his footsteps, although I never did get my license. But one thing that we found interesting is it was a lot easier for me to learn certain things than my father. Now, why is that? Well, you see, my father at that point had been driving a car for more than 20 years. Now, in an airplane, you have what looks kind of like a steering wheel and what looks like pedals, but they do drastically different things. And after decades of building muscle memory about what to do, my father's instinct, his reactions in an airplane were often wrong. Now, being only 17 or so years old myself, I'd only been driving a couple of years. So I didn't have all that muscle memory built up. It was easier for me to adapt to a new set of controls, a new set of muscle memory than my father, because I didn't have years reinforcing habits that didn't fit anymore. How does that apply to a lawyer? Well, again, if a lawyer has years, possibly decades, of mental memories, muscle memories, habits that say, this is where I go, this is what this Constitution means, it's going to take a lot for them to change their mind. It's going to take a conscious effort to do so. Now, part of me, well, I feel kind of sorry for lawyers. I believe they've been lied to. I believe they've been misled, and they are suffering the consequences of it. On the other hand, I see them continuing to perpetuate these errors, these myths, and that makes me mad. So no, I'm not going to stop telling lawyer jokes. They're funny. But I do want the lawyers that watch this video to think a minute and ask themselves, are they practicing law based on the document or based on opinion? If I understand the legal term, are they basing their practice on black letter law or not? Are they basing it on the law as it's written or on what some judge opined? Because you have to remember, judges have opined that blacks were property, slaves were property, that you could be interned simply for being the wrong race. Those were the opinions. That was the case law, the constitutional law of this country at one point. For the rest of us, the next time you see a judge that's nominated and going through the confirmation process in the Senate, pay attention to how often they're asked what their opinion about a specific clause of the Constitution is versus how often they will support precedent or stare decisis, Latin for let the decision stand. Now, I'm not saying previous decisions have no part in the decision process. We have allowed the judicial system to elevate the opinion of judges over the law, the compact they swore to support. And if you are a lawyer or a judge and you're watching this and you're learning more, well, that's great. That's wonderful. I hope I can help. But let's remember, when we're dealing with judges and lawyers, we're dealing with people who most likely have not studied the actual Constitution. They have in effect been brainwashed, and we have let it happen. Maybe we should find a way to decrease the power of these private corporations that are instilling our judges, that are vetting our judges and our lawyers, and allow men and women who study the actual Constitution to actually make cases and give opinions based on the actual wording of the Constitution. I know it's just a thought, maybe it's a pipe dream, but the rest of us should recognize that the judicial system is part of the government. It has been corrupted to the point where they hold their own opinion above the document they swore to support, and you're being held accountable for their opinion. Opinions which change over time. That is not a land ruled by laws. That's a land ruled by men. That's an oligarchy. And that's not what America was designed to be. So, hey, what do you think, man? Are you a lawyer? And put in the comments, did you study the Constitution in law school, or was it merely constitutional law? Have you found situations where constitutional law directly contradicts the Constitution itself? I find it quite regularly in opinions that I write about. You can find those on the website, constitutionstudy.com. Most of all, we have to understand that the legal system, the judicial system, is a part of the government. Therefore, it's biased towards the government. It's just the nature of man. We need to have the same check and balance on the judicial system that we have on the rest of the government. It's why we not only have checks and balances within the federal government, between the branches of the federal government, but between the federal government and the states themselves. So I hope you found this interesting. I hope it made you think a little bit about lawyers and law schools, and I hope you'll come back the next time for the Constitution.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from